Alright, I'm gonna assemble one of these knives. One of my buddies hit me up and he wanted black with the golden accent, the orange. So, we'll assemble this right now. The only tools that you need are a driver bit, so you can use the supplied drivers. The smaller one goes with the silver screws, the stainless steel, which are T8 drive, and then T10 will go with the black ones, and then the center pivot, it'll work for that as well. Uh, the two 6 millimeters are only for the thumb stud, putting that on and tightening it down. I found a 6 millimeter works great for going right around these things. But let's just install this real quick. Make sure you get it lined up. If you take it off, it'll come with it on there. So if you do need to take the thumb stud off for some reason, use a 6 millimeter. I use the open end wrench on one side and a 6 point on the other side. It doesn't take a lot of force on this. Very little. And then now that we're done with those, we'll set those to the side. So that's not coming off of there. Now take your back scale and your pivot, take one side off of it, stick it through there, take two of your pins. These are 3/32 diameter by 5/16 long. Some of the very first knives only came with three, and then I decided to put two in the handle. So the reason why I went with one was because I thought you could adjust the tension on this by where it is, right like that. But I decided just put two of them in there in the back to lock it in, and that should be good enough for tension. I'm using flat hardened washers up against the handle material because the aluminum titanium are softer than the hardened steel of the blade. The blade's not going to need the hardened washers. It's just the handle side. And then take your ball bearing, stick that on there next, and then I'm using KPL just a tiny bit. Like, I barely get it to start coming out, and then I suck it back in and I hit one of the balls on here. And it's just, I do it to three of them only, and it seems to be way plenty for what it needs. And then I'll also take and just kind of rub some in the center pivot and then along where that pin's going to ride inside here as well. And then wipe any excess off. When you're putting the locking bar on, I like to do it at the same time as the blade because then you're not fighting it rocking back and forth. Another thing you could do is only put one in, slide it down, get it lined up, and then drop that second pin in there. Here, I'll show you that method. So, you got that on, that started. Now that that's in there, well, that's way easier. Maybe I should just do that. And then this last pin goes right in here, right inside the button, and through the blade, all the way in there. Then you take your bearing, your second one, just that tiny bit, like almost none. And it seems to be plenty. Then put that on your blade. Then you take your last flat washer, put that on there. And then you take the front scale, push that on there. We'll take our number 10. Number 10. Because we're going to put the black screws in this. And the center pivot is also 10. Get that going. Oops. Throw your screwdriver all around. And this doesn't have to be locked down really hard. Basically bring it up until where it's touching. And then these two screws I like to put in at the same time. Bring them all the way down, very light pressure, and then once they're both touching, I'll snug both of them down. And then just a tiny bit of pressure on that. Oh, I forgot something. On this pivot, I like to put a little Loctite, just the blue stuff. The red, you can use red if you never want to take it apart. Make sure you get any excess off your fingers so you don't get it all over your scales. Then just get that started. Now you put your pivot on. Just tiny bit. That's all it is. Very simple, minimalist parts, and a solid knife. But that's how you assemble one of these. Gil-Tek.com.